I don't talk a lot about B2B, right? I talk a lot about luxury properties, vacation rentals, that type of stuff. But I had an interesting conversation on Clubhouse the other day with a lot of rental arbitrage guys. And it seems to me that a lot of the non-experts in the arbitrage business, or even investors that are, own condos, own apartment buildings, are not leveraging lead building for business to business leads. And this is really pretty simple, to be honest with you. And this comes from my sales training, my sales background of building multiple companies over the course of my career. If you don't know who I am, I'm Bill Faith. I'm the founder of Build Short-Term Rental Wealth. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I bootstrapped 27 startups in my career for over the last 30 years. 23 of those 27 have been successful. I built a couple of $30 million plus companies. And I've done that all in the back of sales and marketing. And I've implemented these same strategies that I've used in my past careers to build a multi-million-dollar short-term rental wealth portfolio. Now, I traditionally invest and buy property in drive-in vacation rental markets because of the security. But I know the majority of our industry is doing arbitrage, they're doing master leases, they're doing co-hosting, and a lot of people migrate into apartments and condos to get started, and that's great. But one thing that you want to do, especially as the COVID goes away, hopefully, and business travel starts to come back. We all know that leisure travel's back, and we believe that this is going to be the biggest summer in the history of vacation rentals, of short-term rentals, if you're in a vacation rental market. But what about those urban areas? We got to work a little bit harder in those urban areas, right? So I want to just give you a couple of tips to identify leads. Number one is when somebody books with you, you need to pay close attention to their email address. Now, if you're booking on VRBO, you get their email address. If you're using direct booking or a third-party platform, not OTA, I guess it is an OTA, but like a Huffy or Expedia, you get email addresses. AirBNB, you don't get email addresses. So one thing that I would strongly recommend is for $99, you can put in a product called StayFi. There's others that are similar to it, to where just like when we go to Marriott, Hilton, any hotel or a Starbucks, and we log in from our phones to get onto Wi-Fi, we have to give our name and email address. You want to pay attention to the email extension. So if I'm bill@yahoo.com, that's not sending any messages for you from a lead standpoint. But if I'm bill@hca.com, which is Healthcare of America, Healthcare Associates here, in one of the largest healthcare companies in Nashville, Tennessee, then I want to pay attention to that. And, because that's a new type of buyer, or I should say a new type of way to be able to connect with that buyer. That person may have booked their reservation directly, or they could have a travel manager. So when you see, and a lot of you are investing into apartments and stuff that are around hospitals, and you're going after traveling nurses and the doctors that are coming in and that type of stuff, it's really important to pay attention to the URL extension. That way you can see what companies are coming, you can find opportunity. That's where building relationship and rapport. Look, and the level of relationship building that happens with somebody like me that gets $500 to $1,500 a night with a property is vastly different than the historical relationship building when somebody's paying $150, $175 a night for an apartment. And I'm going to sit here and tell you that you can build on volume like that, but if you want the reoccurring business travelers, you need to pay attention to that type of lead generation, build rapport with that guest, build rapport after the guest has stayed with you, and ask them, say, hey, do you book your own traveler? Do you guys have a travel manager at your company? And literally, if they're having a good stay, oh yeah, we have a travel manager and they work for Carson Wanglet or Amex Travel. So now you're data mining. That's really what we're talking about here. That's what lead generation through your own client base is data mining. So then you can go to LinkedIn and just pull up HCA and see, okay, well, you may not know this, but here's the people that you're looking for from a job description standpoint that are going to be the gatekeepers or decision makers on getting a corporate account. Because if you own STRs in downtown or midtown Nashville, Tennessee, you want HCA as a customer. You want Dollar General, you want Nissan, all these companies that I used to work with in a previous iteration. I'm just sharing with you, when I sold ground transportation business, when I owned a $9 million ground transportation company right here, I did this exact same thing, and it works. I'm not in that space, but I want to teach you exactly how it works. So then you go to LinkedIn and you look for travel manager, you look for procurement director, you look for HR director. Those three are the top three job descriptions that are going to be controlling and making the decisions on where their corporate travelers are staying. Now here's the critical part. You got to understand, if you see travel manager, 90% of the time that person does not work directly for HCA, meaning they're not the entities, the corporation's employee. They work for Carson Wanglet or BCD Travel or Amex Travel, somebody along those lines, but they work inside that office and manage their travel program. Here's what's key. 5 to 7 years ago, Uber, Lyft, the app-based companies were not a part of these transportation companies. We're not a part of the managed travel programs. They have worked their way in to a certain degree. 5 to 7 years ago, AirBNB, VRBO, short-term rentals were not a part of it. Now they are becoming more and more commonplace. So generating these types of leads and then doing your own data mining is how you're going to get to the decision maker. So 1 is pay attention to the URL extensions. 2, build rapport with your guest. Ask them some key questions. Who manages your travel? Do you have a managed travel program? Just those 2 questions and a follow-up after they've checked out, even after a review process. But then you got to do your data mining. And even if you don't have those guests staying with you today and you're starting from scratch, look at the corporations that are around you and go after those buyer personas. Procurement director, travel manager, sometimes it's going to be human resources, and then it kind of goes up into that C-suite, and it could even be the executive to the CEO, CFO, or the COO. So those are really 4 buyer personas, 4 job descriptions that you want to try to track down for B2B leads. Look, there's a whole nother component of this that really can be put into play as well, and that's just doing LinkedIn data mining. So just do number 1 here, if you're not going to go down that route, and you should, but if you're starting with nothing and you don't have guests staying with you, go to Google, type in top 10 largest businesses in your city. Then go and type in those businesses into LinkedIn, right? And then you're going to then click on people, and you'll see every person that's associated with that company that works for them. Then start typing in job descriptions, and we're kind of narrowing this funnel down till we can find the right people. Then when you find who I refer to as Travel Manager Tammy, you can see when you click to her profile of how many shared connections you have. And if you have shared connections with Travel Manager Tammy, click on that link and it will literally show you every single person that you and Tammy share as a connection. This is gold, my friends. So now you see Bill Faith as your connection. And I'm connected to Travel Manager Tammy. That's the buyer persona name. But let's say her name's Laura Rutledge, who was the travel manager for Dollar General. Laura Rutledge was a client. Dollar General was a client of mine. Then you reach out to me and you say, hey, Bill, could you do a warm introduction to Laura Rutledge for me? And I say, well, you know what? Hey, yeah, you got you're in Goodlettsville, right? Just north of Nashville. Yeah, that's where their HQ is. And you have, okay, so you're trying to get the SDR business. I'll tell you what, send me your unique value proposition, type out the email for me. I'll copy and paste it and I'll send it to Laura for you. That's called a warm introduction. And if you follow a process like that, as opposed to what everybody else does and spams Laura and just tries to connect with her when you have no relationship, she has no idea who you are on LinkedIn, but you get somebody of authority that had a relationship, had a long relationship with her and actually delivered services that she was happy with, and she's given me recommendations to other companies, I'm gonna have a certain level of influence over her. That's more likely for you to get a meeting, like 82% more likely for you to get a phone call meeting, an in-person meeting, whatever you would need. So follow these 2 components for your B2B lead generation, and I promise you, you will see your leads start turning into customers if you approach it the right way. These are the 2 best ways to be able to go after that business, commercial traveler, healthcare, insurance, all these verticals that you want if you're really going to be based in urban areas. Look, and don't forget, if you found any value in this, and hopefully you have, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. We'll see you guys on the next episode.